Okay. So we'll get started there. So thanks everyone for joining the call today. Thought it'd be good to get everyone together just to have a bit of a kind of round table sort of conversation really around a few areas that a number of our clients are coming up with. Thought why not get everyone's point of view on things. So one of the things that a lot of our clients have been talking to us about in this current sort of situation is boredom eating. So people are stuck at home. You know, some people are working, some people aren't working. However, you know, they're finding that a lot of the time what they're doing is they're reaching to the fridge when they're a little bit bored. So we thought we'd put together a bit of a conversation around sort of how to overcome sort of your own boredom eating. So what we're going to do is we're going to work around the kind of all the coaches on the call just to get a little bit more background, a little more information around their kind of idea around what boredom eating is. So just to start with, I'm going to open this up to Andy. So Andy, if you want to start with kind of, you know, to you, what is boredom eating?
Well, I think, you know, we use the term boredom, you know, very loosely, but I mean, you've got it down here. Is it boredom or is it something else? And I would say that, you know, boredom is a hard thing to define, but is it, you know, a sense of meaninglessness? So what you are doing in that current moment, a lot of people can't sit with their own thoughts, right? Or, you know, they need some kind of stimulation. And I think that's where boredom eating kind of comes in. Is boredom can mean different things to different people, but ultimately what it is whatever you're currently doing. It could be work, it could be just sitting in a room, alone with your thoughts, but it's something that is a bit of a meaningless and pointless endeavor. And so then people seek a band-aid, they seek stimulation, and eating food, and especially eating junk food, is very stimulating. So I think that's, you know, where it stems from, is you're sitting there and you need to be stimulated because you're not engaged or there's nothing meaningful going on, whether that's, you know, with work or what's on the television or what's ever going on in your own head. So I think, yeah, I think it's a band-aid essentially.
Yes, Milo, Danny, do you have anything to add to that?
I think Andy pretty much nailed that. The only thing I'd add to it is like there's both boredom eating within like the moment of boredom, so during the fact, and it's also common after. So like when someone has done a task that they find meaningless or boring, and it's something that I know, like if I've gone through just slugging through a load of admin work, I'm more likely to want to essentially reward myself. It's another form of boredom eating of I'm alleviating myself from what was a very unstimulating situation with something that is stimulating, like hyper-palatable food.
Yeah. Does anyone have any kind of personal experience of that in this group? Because, you know, I think that's one of the things that people are going to sort of say. It's easy for you to say that because you're all in the fitness industry, but does anyone have any personal experience of boredom eating? I mean, you just hit on there, Danny, around, you know, getting kind of rewarding yourself after doing some admin. Anyone else? Milo?
Yeah, to be honest, you know, in the last couple of weeks, I've found myself going to my fridge lots just because, you know, I'm precisely 1 meter away from my fridge. It's really easily accessible. And just, you know, just to break up the day, I've just been finding myself just going to that fridge, you know, grabbing something or even just looking in it.
Yep, fine.
Yeah.
Okay, I think that sums up kind of really what, I mean, we use the phrase boredom eating, but kind of just needlessly opening the fridge or having some food in a certain situation. So why do we think this happens? I'll start with Danny on this. So, you know, why do you think this is currently happening?
It's kind of in our definition a little bit. It's breaking from a non-stimulating situation. So, and again, Andy said this perfectly with meaningless. So like if we're in any situation that we deem to be meaningless, that's kind of the closest definition to boredom that we have. So the biggest reason it happens is because it gives us a break in that situation. So something that's kind of low, monotonous, meaningless, we're not really getting anything from that. Our brain immediately kind of wants us to go to something, well, this isn't good. Like I want something good. Like what's fun, what's exciting. And that hyper-palatable food is something that we know is going to be a reward. So it breaks us from that state of boredom into a perception of this is exciting, this is rewarding, this is fun. So that's the main kind of the reason it happens.
I think if I might just add to what Danny's saying, I think that's bang on. And just as an example, in kind of looking around and researching this topic a little bit, I came across a study about boredom where they found that people they would literally sit in a room and give themselves electric shocks rather than just sit there alone with their own thoughts and be, quote, bored. And so eating, it fits in with what it's easy and it's accessible. So yeah, we're not going to give ourselves electric shocks. My point being is that people they really need stimulation. They really crave it. We're conditioned in that way these days to constantly need that stimulation and not just be sitting there alone, perhaps with our thoughts or in meaninglessness. So reaching for that hyper-palatable food is so easy, and it fits in with lifestyle. It fits in with society. People might look at you a bit weird if you just start giving yourself electric shocks, but so food is kind of the obvious. Food is the obvious thing, So
some people might be into that sort of thing.
You never know.
Why do you think? So why in that instance then? Why do you think people will reach for kind of hyper-palatable foods and not, I don't know, an apple or a banana or a healthy snack? Milo, do you have anything on that?
Yeah, I think it's just because that those highly palatable foods activates areas in our brain which are far more exciting than, for say, like an apple or banana. I think another reason is that this sort of food, like the biscuits and crisps, cakes are very easy just to grab. It takes precisely 1 second to go to open your cupboard, grab it, and then you can eat it straight away. So I think those are some of the reasons, and we just use that as a a painkiller to relieve the stress or the anxiety or the boredom that we have in that moment.
Yep, and I think that's good explanation. Does anyone else have anything more to add on? Kind of why does it happen? So I think we've talked about so what is boredom eating? Why does it happen? I think one of the things that a lot of people are asking us at the moment is how can how do we overcome it? So how can what can we do to overcome this situation? So we've got some notes here, but I thought if we just open that up again, what would you say is what would you say are some of the really quick fixes that you could put in place to stop this happening and to actually overcome it? I don't know who wants to start off. Danny?
Yes, I mean, again, the main thing in this is that there's loads of stuff that we can do to band-aid it. So we can make healthy snacks as long as they are really exciting, they're really interesting, they're really flavorful. That's something that will work short term. We can obviously hydrate really well. That's something that will at least satiate us. We can ensure that our main meals are decent and we've got stable blood sugar. But the main thing that we have to tackle in this is the boredom. We have to come up with strategies to consistently reduce our boredom, because that's really where this is going to be saved. So either doing things that change up the schedule, doing things that you actually genuinely enjoy, or even something as simple as playing some music, because that releases things like dopamine and serotonin in the brain. So that gives us that same kind of breakup or that sensation. So doing bits and pieces that essentially help break up the day and alleviate boredom, that's where this is really going to be improved.
Yeah, I think that's I think that's good. So Milo, what would you say?
Yeah, I think the main one for me is about distracting yourself with another activity, as Dan just said. But I think another thing is you can kind of just you notice that you've got that urge to snack, and just wait and see what happens. Wait 5 minutes before taking any action. Again, this isn't something about exercising any willpower. It's just about pausing long enough to let your conscious mind take over and decide, hey, I'm in charge here. Not the urge.
Do you think there are any other ways to kind of alleviate that urge?
Yeah. So I think what Milo and Danny have touched on are they're kind of hinting at it, both in what they said, and I think what they've said is bang on, and I think it's really, really good. The very first line says, "Notice you have an urge," right? And that noticing I think is important. So boredom is not defined by just repetitive activity, right? Necessarily. I mean, people can do repetitive activities all the time and not find it boring. It depends on what you find exciting and boring, but I think noticing that feeling. So, one thing that I practice, I'm not the best at it all the time, but is mindfulness. And I think that I think getting into, it might be a bit out there, but really for some people, and it may not work for everybody, but learning to be alone with your thoughts, learning to be okay with not being stimulated, and perhaps getting into something like mindfulness can really, really help in noticing a feeling and observing that feeling and then letting it dissipate and go away. So I have found it, for me personally, mindfulness is a huge help. I've never used it necessarily in this context with boredom eating, but I think that could be a powerful tool. It's something that, that's something you can even do before trying to distract yourself with another activity. And it may work for some people, it may not, but I would recommend that people give that a try, So.
Yeah, I think that's a great, some great advice there. I mean, we're kind of coming to the end of the time that we've allocated for this call now. Does anyone have any other or additional kind of ways potentially to overcome things, or to overcome this?
I think one would be is just figuring out how to break a chain. If you sort of start thinking about your day and you'll probably see patterns, and that, every day at maybe 10 o'clock after you've got off this hour-long conference call at work, you've got this urge to do it. And again, it might happen in the afternoon when you've got through quite a lot of work. And I think, when you actually start to notice the patterns in your life and what leads to it, you can kind of then put some strategies into place, So for example, after that conference call in the morning and you get that urge, just take a 5-minute walk. It's enough just to break up the pattern of what you were doing, which led to the behavior of boredom eating in the first place.
So in a way then, do you think this is becoming like a new habit for people?
Yeah, 100%. I think it's because we bolt on these habits after doing something, and after a week of doing it, it's now a habit. So we just need to basically just mix things up a little bit, just to change what we're used to doing.
Yeah, I mean, so Andy mentioned some mindfulness. Has anyone else on this call kind of implemented anything to be able to break the habit of, or just like disrupt it slightly?
I think Marlo said it in like, it's the same but different in the sense that like being mindful is being mindful of the way your day's laid out. Like I've done that personally, from the sense that recognizing when I'm getting that drop in energy or where I'm getting bored and wanting to reach for the cupboard, having that level of mindfulness to go, okay, I need to put something in place in there. Like if I'm going to go and do, 4 hours of consults and I'm kind of fatigued at the end, or, whatever it is, my brain's going slow and I'm going to go for some sugary stuff. Like I need to, in that moment, remember that tends to happen, and I'm going to go for a walk. So that's personally where I'm kind of putting mindfulness in that routine.
I think going for a walk is absolutely a form of mindfulness, right? Like you're going for a walk, you're being mindful and present in that moment of going for a walk. I think that's actually a really great strategy. That's a great idea.
Yeah. Okay. I think that kind of sort of brings it to the end of where we need to be on this call.